Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Welcome.
We are very excited because we have a very popular, very well-known guest today, Dr. Mitch Mally. Thanks for being here, Doc.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks, Paul, Dr. Mark. It's an absolute pleasure.
Being such an international speaker, are you in the United States right now?
I am in the United States, if you consider Iowa part of that. And however, about 10 days, I do fly to speak in Barcelona, Spain. I've got a full capacity group of chiropractors and students ready to take on the TMJ, the jaw joint and the cervical spine.
Awesome.
Nice. Good for you.
So we like to ask all of our guests, we'll ask you, Doc, how did you decide to get into and become a chiropractor?
It's a really great question, very common question. I'll tell you that my injuries as an athlete, which kept me from what I dreamed was to make it to the bigs, pro football or pro baseball. I had a devastating knee injury and 32 credits shy of going to med school to become an orthopedic surgeon with a fellowship in sports medicine or playing professional sports. I ended up trying this chiropractor, and he took care of me 5 days a week for 6 weeks, and a total dislocation, tore every ligament and cartilage in my left knee. I did not have surgery for 20 years, and I was raised with two older brothers that are biochemists that told me chiropractic is quackery. Quickly did I find out otherwise and matriculated in, dropped out of the med school program, did not proceed with the sports, and here I am 45 years later in practice.
Right. When did you graduate?
1981.
1981. So we were together. You went to Palmer, correct?
I thought you were much older.
No.
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth, Doc.
Right. Well, wait a minute now. When did you graduate in 81?
October.
Oh, so see, you're older than me. So
Okay.
So would you say that's your passion for extremities specifically, Doc, came out of that?
Really, I think it is because I've also been involved in various martial arts for over 50 years and not only sustaining injuries, but also unfortunately helping to provide or give injuries and now to make full circle treating injuries. So it's been quite a journey, if you would.
All right,
But
so I have to
but
ask, what positions in football and baseball were yours?
You know, they baseball was pitcher and outfield because I had a cannon of an arm. And in football, I was very, very fast, so I could have been played anywhere. In high school, Oak Park High School in Michigan, I played wide receiver, flanker, running back, kickoff returner, second string quarterback. I also punted because we didn't have enough guys on the team. So I did a little bit of everything.
okay, so what town was this?
That's Oak Park, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit.
Okay. All right.
So
So
if we were cheering, we'd say go. What's your team name back there in Michigan?
For Oak Park?
Yeah.
what was your mascot?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I don't even remember. I think we used to just hide from the mascots.
You know, I went to a high school. It was St. Stephen's, and we called ourselves stevedores, which nobody really knew what that meant. So if you look it up, it means a person who loads and unloads ships.
I
All
think
right, Mitch,
that's
I know there's a
appropriate.
joke in there, but this is
Yeah,
PG.
I know we're gonna let it go because nobody. I mean, we thought it was a cool name because of the play, but play off the name of the school. But then
Yeah.
we found out later, oh my God, I'm a dock worker.
Yeah, you might have been ship-faced.
Ba-dum-bum. So
So
let me say this though. One thing. Through your course of chiropractic, you've already obviously gravitated and are well known for your treatment of athletes. So what's that like? What's it like treating some of these big guys, these professionals? Are they as temperamental as one might think, or are they just good old normal people?
Most of them are good old normal people. Of course, you're going to run into not such good normal people as well.
Mm.
And in the field of sports, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of people wanting everything from these athletes. And as you know, I've taken care of many stars and celebrities. And in fact, one of our long-term patients of 45 years yesterday, as I mentioned to you, was just inducted into the Hall of Fame for the San Francisco 49ers All-Pro running back, Roger Craig.
Wow.
Healthiest football player in the history of the NFL. We're so proud that both myself and a colleague that I trained, Dr. Nick Athens in San Francisco, provided Roger the ultimate care for preseason, postseason, pregame, postgame, and kept him healthy. And in 11 years, he didn't miss a game of pro football.
Wow.
See, doesn't that say it all? So, if you, after 45 years of doing this, were to give a young doctor advice about going into chiropractic and specifically dealing with teams, whether it be local or more in the professional level,
Or the
what would be
stevedores.
like the stevedores. So, first of all, do you think that's a good direction for young doctors to go in? And what would be your one big piece of advice if they wanted to?
Well, in over 4 decades, the one thing that I do teach and globally instruct students and doctors, as well as prospects, is to go in humbly knowing that you are here to serve the people, no matter what. And you, as a doctor, are the celebrity in your office. The people are coming to see you. You didn't buy a ticket to go see them. Do the greatest job you can as you were performing on TV and everybody's watching you perform. Yield the greatest unparalleled outcomes. Get into chiropractic for the right reason. Chiropractic chose me and it chose you as well, Dr. Mark, and it's chose most of us through our endeavors in life. We've had injuries or we wanted to prevent injuries, or we've certainly had some experience with allergies, low back pain, whiplash, car accidents, carpal tunnel syndrome. And as you know, my extremities dovetail perfectly with sports because most injuries are not, thank God, spinal and spinal cord injuries. Those are the rare ones. 99% of every injury in athletics, as you know, are the joints, such as the shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand, foot, ankle, knee, and hip.
So,
What
do you
is
think
your
it's
favorite joint to work with?
The non-medicinal joint, I think you're referring to chiropractic and the human body. That
Yes.
joint is definitely gotta be the shoulder and the jaw.
the shoulder
But
and the
it's
jaw?
really hard because, look, $800 billion is spent by the public by according to the National Institute of Health, 400 billion of those is spent on the spine. That means half of the other injuries and money spent for pain and pain suffering are to all the peripheral joints, the extremities. So, helping chiropractic students, prospects, and chiropractors worldwide, educating them on areas that have, in most cases, end up with perhaps drugs and surgery. This affords people an opportunity for a drugless, non-surgical, and oftentimes post-surgical correction of their problem.
So, how did you maintain a practice and still do all this traveling and then obviously you have to go to the games and you have to be with the team. How do you maintain a practice and do all of that? Because obviously it takes a lot of time.
Well, you might say I'm committed, or maybe I need to be, but I do allocate my time. No, I don't go out as much to the teams anymore. I am typically hired privately by very high level elite performers. And then I've trained doctors and students worldwide as my interns and residents that go on into practice. And they use me as the grandfather of the practice, but if they run into difficulties, they'll fly me out to take care of the athlete or fly the athlete in. There are several professional stars that I do take care of in a big wall of fame. But the point is this: I'll take care of them humbly here. And then they may say, but we want you at our games. We want you at this. So they have to
Mm.
sign a contract to bring me out to different games and locations. And we try to fit it all in as
Well, what
20
if it
days
was
of a
yeah.
week.
What if it was like on a lesser scale? Like I said, high school, maybe college level, your local schools. You want to get involved. You have to start somewhere. Um, that takes a lot of commitment and time. Yet you're also trying to build a practice and keep the lights on.
Absolutely. There is nothing like the word dedication. And as being a business owner, the dedication and loyalty and commitment to service is something that we grew up with.
Mm.
And today's kids need to learn that from us because we've done a good job of spoiling a lot of the kids with entitlement. We provided what we did not have. And today's kids, as you know, are being nurtured either for the good or not so good. And in our office, we have an open door policy to train the students and doctors. They come in and they do grand rounds, they follow, they observe, and they see a level of commitment and dedication to serve humanity. And that's precisely what we do, no matter what level. Remember, you're the elite. You're the doctor. They've come to see you. You're the star. You're the celebrity. Act humbly and serve the people well.
So I have a
But
question for you, Doc. Because treating patients and I think teaching doctors, you obviously approach it differently. What are some like challenges that you see these doctors have when they're in your classes or do you see any challenges with them?
Going the extra mile is probably the first sentence that comes to my mind. When the kitten looks into the puddle and sees a lion, that's a person I will take all day long. I don't care if they're a C student, but they have a commitment to excellence. Those are the people I want to take on and train. The all A student who cannot talk as well, who cannot communicate as well, doesn't want to put out the effort because it comes too easy, is really not going to enjoy the journey that the blood, sweat, and tears that it takes to develop an office that's successful requires. It's dig in. You don't get the foundation of a house without a lot of effort to dig and get to the level to start building something great.
So would you say that when these docs are in your class, can you probably at this point, you'll know within a couple of minutes who's going to be the ones that sort of
the
either their
stars.
natural ability or their stars and the ones that are like just phoning it in?
Mhm.
So yes, you can. You can definitely tell a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
And these are people we'll pull aside later and say, if you continue doing what you're doing, you're going to excel wonderfully in my program. Pass your exams and do great. And then you'll sit our intern exam and get an opportunity to rub elbows with me and observe cases live in the office and observe the type of practice that they may have a dream to own one day.
Here's a simple question, but believe it or not, it's something that's out there. There are those docs that just say, I don't want to do extremities. It's too much. I'm a spine only doctor, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their specialty and their focus. But as someone who has excelled in the whole concept of extremity adjusting, um, can you give us a sense of how it's enriched your practice?
Absolutely. What goes around comes around, right? So the spine from above down, in and out, as we were taught, from the brain to the spinal cord and out to the extremities. But there's also what comes back to the spinal cord and brain. And that's called the afferent pathway. And what happens is you touch a hot stove and the message goes to your brain to remove your finger from the stove. Okay. It just doesn't go from the brain to the finger and leave it there. So what I listened and followed was a lot of the medical texts understand the relationship of the extremities, but not in a link and relationship to the spine. As you know, in chiropractic, not many people relate to how the extremity affects the spine. It's more importantly to them how the spine affects the extremity. A full circle means what goes around comes around. In my world, if the spine can cause something, then something else can cause the spine. If A equals B, B equals A, right? You understand? So
Mhm.
the concept of the extremities enrich my practice because we're seeing cases from all over the world in my VIP concierge care program. People are coming here from all over the world referred by chiropractors who don't treat extremities, and the spine doesn't get any better. When you look to the extremity that's contributing to the spine, remember your four appendages actually anchor the upper extremities anchored to the neck and the upper middle back. The lower extremities anchored to the pelvis, sacrum, and lumbar spine. How can you treat the spine without looking at the extremities? And one last caveat to that is there are 9 extremities to one spine. If you gave me $1, I gave you 9, it would be a good investment on your return on investment, right? Well,
Exactly.
those 9 extremities affect one spine, so I would never wanna limit 206 bones to just working on 24 to 26 segments of a spine.
Well said. Thank you.
So in all your years of experience, Doc, you have seen the sort of the evolution of the profession and the embracement of supportive procedures. Are there any favorites of yours, or is it just strictly hands-on that you enjoy the most?
I believe in the adage that the definition of chiropractic means done by hand, not used to be. I am profoundly teaching my audience of students and doctors all over the globe how to be able to use the greatest gifts they've ever been given. It's not to denigrate, it's not to put down anything else, But if I tell you in 46th year of practice that I use my hands to get the outcomes I get, that should speak volumes to the listening audience.
Roger that.
Exactly. Thank you.
Love that experience. So these docs coming out of school, you're a seasoned veteran. Any sage words of advice as they start to make their way in the world, not just business wise, but clinically as they start to really hone in on their craft?
Take the blinders off. Realize that when you graduate, you're a fetus and you'll develop in practice. And I would look for the type of courses such as I do teach that will embrace chiropractic in what it's known for, which is utilization of the hand to restore function and neurology. And remember that the nervous system controls every cell, tissue, gland, muscle, and organ. Wow, there are other things that you can use as attributes to contribute to wellness, such as ice, for example, or cold laser, or decompression or traction. There's a myriad of different things you can use. But let's get back down to the basics. A seed creates a weed. If you get rid of the weed, the only way to get rid of it from coming back is to get rid of the root source of the problem, the seed. And this is what exactly I tell anybody is if you're going to begin a practice and you want it to be solid, build it with a solid foundation. The seed creates the weed. The seed will also create a plant, a tree, or what have you. If you start with a perfect foundation and you build on that, it's a lot better than building a foundation on quicksand.
Dr. Mark and
Love
I
it.
have often talked about in our episodes about the education of chiropractors and the changes. You seeing that from these docs coming in that you're teaching over the years, what have you seen as far as their preparedness or the education they're getting? And do you have an opinion? I know I'm gonna tread lightly here, but do you have an opinion on on the differences after 45 years of practice and seeing, just thousands of students come to you?
I've seen dilution versus evolution. I've seen extremes where students from various colleges seem to be less impressed and less influenced with hands-on and are being swayed more into the physiotherapy realm of stretching and strengthening, which has always been a part of my strength, if you would, and being flexible, if you would, in knowing that the first and most underlying problem is correcting the joint function and then adding to it these extra items. It's like putting a tire on a car without aligning it is still going to have a performance issue. And the tread's going to wear down on that new tire as well. Parking it in the garage and resting it isn't going to make a difference. Taking it out and racing it with a wheel out of alignment causes what I call a wheel problem. The issue becomes that the patient is the same identical scenario. If you don't get root of the problem fixed, the problem will become chronic. And that's why chiropractors all over the world are referring their cases to me is because we're looking at it not through the blinders, but removing the blinders and looking at the body as a holistic, entire 206-piece puzzle, and they just haven't had somebody find the root source of the problem.
So would you say that a lot of doctors coming out of school now, they're really responding to symptoms versus objective findings?
Yes, unfortunately, it's always been the case. The medical model looks at exactly the same scenario, and that's not denigrating anybody. It's just, look, I've learned that you don't continue to hit the dashboard to make a gas light go off. Putting masking tape over that light is merely covering up the symptoms, and disconnecting the light bulb surgically is not going to repair the problem either. I come along and look at the car differently and say, wow, I see and understand what that message is you're getting, the symptom, but I'm going to look for the root source of the problem. When we do, we extrapolate the diagnosis accurately and get the root corrected. Right now, currently, I just had a VIP patient here. She's here for 10 days. Tomorrow, today is her 10th day. 5 years going to multiple hospitals, Children's Hospital. She's a fast pitch softball player. 5 years of unrelenting rib pain on the chest wall, has been to, in her admission, in her history, 20 different doctors, has had multiple MRIs, CT scans, EMGs, every test under the sun. Her consultation, I explained to them where I believe the root of the problem was, the foundation of her structure, her bone length, her leg length deformity, which turned out to be the case. 6 millimeters short was causing her to throw abnormally, torquing her body, resulting in symptoms far removed from the root source of her problem. When you look for the source of the problem, it'll help you resolve an issue much more efficaciously, cost effectively, and expeditiously. Okay.
Do you
And
feel
she
yeah.
immediately, after first treatment, 5 years of unrelenting pain in her chest was gone immediately when we put, ready, a $7 heel lift under her shoe.
Wow.
And now her shoes will all be modified by a shoe cobbler to balance her limb length, which we have rules for that as to how much before you have to take a shoe in versus just a heel lift. So it's made a brilliant change in her entire being.
So if you were to say, knowing all that you just said and looking at the future and speaking more philosophically than specifically, what's the solution? How do we get these docs to see what you just said?
I would love to hold webinars and podcasts such as you're doing, getting a tremendous outreach. I travel to different chiropractic colleges coming up. Kansas City is coming up, Palmer, Florida coming up, uh, Barcelona, Spain coming up, and I'm all over the planet. We just got Dublin, Ireland, just reached out, and so did Stockholm, Sweden. So we are definitely, the word is getting out there. I'm one man on an island, but that ocean of people that's out there, as you're referencing, need to find their way to that island that resonates with them, that makes sense, that is something they can understand, is beyond what you're going to learn at school, is learn from a successful practitioner who's been in the trenches and still in the trenches, not going to seminars where they're not even in practice, where the doctor's professing all these things has no practice. I'm in the trenches because it sharpens my skills. Like the tools of any trade need to be sharpened. By staying in the trenches, continually doing this for 46 years, people ask, when are you going to retire? I tell them, I'm just going to stay tired. Why do I want to get tired all over again? Next thing is, when am I going to be done? I said, probably when I give the last adjustment, my head falls on the patient's back and I'm done. That's when I'll retire.
Well, then just make sure there's enough people that know what you do so that chiropractic can advance the way we need it to.
Yeah, I hope they can revive me so I can continue into my 120th year.
Yes. Okay. Wow.
So where if people want to find out more about you and your seminars, your webinars, is there a place to go? Go ahead and promote yourself. Let it have at it.
Well, they can always reach out via my Instagram. I highly recommend they go to the Instagram and my YouTube channel. The Instagram is just at the Mally Method. And that's TheMallyMethod. There's no E in Mally. The Mally Method. And the YouTube channel is just drmitchmally.com. And, you guys, referenced as the doctor's doctor is really quite a beautiful attribute and accolade, if you would, because the doctors line up at these events to get adjusted by me, not to get tape, not to get traction, not to get cold laser, not to have vitamins, not to saying that those are not necessary, but they want a good adjustment. And that's just a tragic thing that they have to beg, borrow, plead to get a great adjustment versus duplication, which is my 3 C's: consistency and continuity of care. Create duplication of yourself. One day, if I ever did want to quit, I'd like to have my patients receive the same quality of care. So the Mally Method and YouTube channel, drmitchmally.com. And they could also go to any doctors who want to reach out to me. I'll go ahead and give my email address is just mrmally@live.com. my concierge care program for VIPs that might want to take advantage of coming out to a 46-year seasoned professional who trains others would be the TriMed VIP. That's TRIMED VIP.com. And that might be another way for them to reach out. The office number is 563-823-5555. Select 0. And I look forward to doing perhaps a free consultation, a telemedicine call, whatever's necessary to help people get on the straight road to recovery and not take a lot of detours off of the main root source of the problem. Find the
That's great.
direction of correction.
Thank you. Thank you.
I haven't known you that long, Doc, but what I have known about you is you're very generous about imparting your wisdom, and I think that's really important for the seasoned veterans to just be able to be willing to share. You know, it's not
Thank you.
it's not as common as one would hope. So we
Well,
appreciate you.
I so appreciate both of you and what you're doing. And a closing sentence resonates with that comment, and I appreciate you, is I am a piece of conduit from my Lord God to serve people. So if I've been given a talent, it's my duty and obligation and oath to leave that behind, to impart that wisdom and knowledge and experience to others. Teach a man to fish, he can fish for a lifetime. And that also would include a woman.
Wow.
Good.
Ding right at the end.
But
All right.
boom. Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Well, thanks
You
again,
guys,
Doc.
you guys are the best.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you
Thank you.
taking the
Appreciate
time.
you. Yes.
I mean, you're a very busy, well-known person. Clearly, we are so happy to have your time today. Thank you so much for carving it out. And with that, we want to thank you again for joining us on another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mark Davini, and
Dr. Mitch Mally, thank you very kindly.
thank you.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.